Hi, welcome to Yoke's YouTube channel. I'm Liz Matthew, the regulated Canadian immigration consultant. Today we will be looking at how are the international students and foreign workers numbers, understanding how many people have entered into Canada, and basically a comparison video and looking at some numbers. That's what we will be looking at in this video. So, according to IRCC, the government introduced several measures over the last 2 years and to reduce the growth of temporary residents in Canada. So that's mainly why IRCC released this data is what we will be looking at. So the measures that were introduced over the last 2 years, they have introduced caps for international students and on study permits and changes to the postgraduate work permit, the restrictions on spousal open work permit, then the reduction in certain temporary foreign worker streams. And the government says that these measures are designed to create more sustainable immigration system and to reduce pressures on the housing, healthcare, infrastructure, and public services. And the new data appears to show that these policies are having a measurable impact on Canada. And we will be looking at this video what are the numbers, how it's impacting, so on, so you'll get a better idea of things. And the number of new international students arriving in Canada has dropped significantly. Just doing the comparison, in 2024, Canada issued approximately 292,970 study permits. Meanwhile, work permits arrivals totaled up to 393,305 work permits in 2024. And the monthly numbers show a dramatic slowdown throughout late 2024 and into 2025. So, for example, in August 2024, they saw over 79,000 study permit arrivals, and by January 2025, that number dropped to just over 11,000. So, this is a substantial reduction in new student arrivals, as you can see. That is a huge drop. And what about the temporary workers? Let's look at that. And the work permit side is also signs of decline. While the work permit numbers initially remained strong throughout much of 2024, they began decreasing significantly toward the end of the year. For example, let's look at the chart. In March 2024, approximately 63,640 work permit arrivals were there. But looking at that number in January 2025, approximately 14,875 work permit arrivals only has happened. So the trend indicates that Canada's efforts to reduce temporary resident growth are affecting both students and workers. And this is especially important because temporary residents have become a major component of Canada's labor force in the recent years. And what changed in Canadian immigration policy is basically that several policy changes has contributed in these numbers as well. The first one being the international student cap. The federal government introduced limits on study permits to allow slow growth in the international student population, and many institutions also saw the reduced allocations, and they had a lot of numbers have dropped in institutions, in people, students enrolling in them. And this particularly affected private colleges and institutions which had a heavy number of international student enrollments during the hype years. And PGWP reforms. IRCC has tightened up eligibility requirements for the postgraduate work permit program, and the goal was to better align education pathways with Canada's labor market needs. The other change is the spousal open work permit restrictions. The eligibility for spouses of international students and temporary foreign workers were significantly narrowed, and this reduced the number of accompanying family members receiving work authorizations to stay in Canada. And the temporary foreign worker program allocation is one of the other change that contribute to the lower numbers. Is Canada also reduced admissions in certain employer-driven temporary worker streams while increasing scrutiny in the labor market assessments. And what does this mean for current international students is, if you're already studying in Canada, don't panic. This is not affecting you much. It's mainly for people who are thinking of moving into Canada and making Canada a dream country. Whoever is deciding to move into Canada should make sure and be aware of several realities. The competition for permanent residence is increasing, and provincial nominee programs are becoming more targeted. Postgraduate work permit eligibility requirements are getting stricter, and programs linked to labor shortages are becoming more important. And students should focus on occupations with labor demand. So, like the priority occupations, focus on that. If you are deciding to come into Canada to study, focus on priority occupations. Don't just take any course, because the end goal is becoming tighter. And provincial pathways, language improvements, Canadian work experience, long term immigration planning is very much required at the time you decide to come to Canada to study itself. And simply obtaining a diploma no longer is enough. Strategic career planning is becoming essential right from the time you decide to come to Canada to study, if you are choosing that route. And what does this mean for work permit holders is, temporary workers should also pay close attention, as Canada is increasing prioritizing healthcare workers, skilled trades, construction workers, technology professionals, and workers in rural and remote communities is what IRCC is looking at. And many provinces are also shifting this approach from broad immigration programs towards targeted occupation specific selection. So that's something foreign workers to look at. And workers in high demand sectors may actually benefit from reduced competition. And the long term goal is one important thing many people misunderstand is this: a decline in new arrivals does not mean that Canada is completely shutting down immigration. That's not what it is. And Canada still plans to welcome hundreds and thousands of permanent residents each year. What is changing is the balance between temporary residents and permanent residents. So, in the end of the day, Canada is looking to make permanent people permanent in this country who are contributing to Canada. So, the federal government is repeatedly stating that it wants more controlled and sustainable immigration system, and the goal appears to be reducing temporary resident growth while maintaining immigration plans that meets the economic needs. So the data basically confirms that immigration professionals have been noticing for months, and Canada is moving away from quantity based growth and towards targeted immigration, as priority occupations are in demand right now. And almost any study program should lead to a work permit, and eventually permanent residence is changing, as maybe when you start your course, your permanent resident pathway could be different. But keep updated on the immigration changes, as it's very much evolving over time. And choosing your right province, choosing your right occupation, language proficiency, employer support, and labor market needs, those are very much important. And for applicants who plan strategically, opportunities remain very strong even now. So the new IRCC data clearly shows that Canada's policy are reducing the number of new international students and temporary foreign workers entering the country. If the trend continues in 2026, and most immigration stories are still waiting to be watched, that's something that we got to watch out for. So stay tuned. And if this video has been helpful to see how the numbers have dwindled over time from 2024 to our current times in 2026, that is a huge difference. If it has been, if you were able to see that analysis, please do like and watch this video till the end. And we are always making Canadian immigration content, and let us know what is really helpful for you to know from us. And we are always here to help you out. See you all in the next video.